And earlier today I was doing some research on the web and ran across a lawsuit that involved Thomas Schoenberger. And it was a lawsuit from back in 2014. It was filed by some lady, I believe her name was maybe Isabel, something of that nature. And so I started reading through the documents in her complaint to the court. And apparently it appears through her complaint that she basically stated that Thomas had defrauded her and swindled her out of over $400,000. While I was reading through that complaint, it was really amazing because some of the first things that she said in her complaint about Thomas telling her that he was involved with the military and he was involved with the government and had all these high connections and things of that nature. Kind of rang a bell because, those are the same things that he had basically said to my wife when he was trying to, I don't know if he was attempting to woo her or what the case was, but, Thomas had told her a lot of fantastical tales about him being a composer and being connected to the government and the military and all of this stuff. But it was just kind of amazing how similar her story was in her court complaint as to what I had saw that Thomas had, been telling my wife. Thomas had also introduced my wife to other people. One person in particular was Lisa Clappier, who had contacted my wife numerous times and told her some really fantabulous tales about, inheriting the world's wealth and just all kinds of weird things, finding this utopia, Sophia's garden, whatever you want to call it. And, it was really amazing what some of these people were saying and, kind of just leading my wife down this big giant rabbit hole and I don't know if they were doing it just to try to play mind games with her or, if there was some intent to, try to maybe swindle her out of some money at some point in time. I do know that Thomas had asked my wife what I did for a living and, some other questions that, led me to believe that maybe he was trying to find out if she had any money. But, anyway, I kind of wanted to come on and clear the air a little bit, It amazes me how much harassment and stalking and bullying that happens online with Thomas and his crew of people. I call them mindless minions on social media because it just amazes me. But, these people fail to understand. And I've said it many times to Thomas and in messages to these people because they've messaged me, making all kinds of wild accusations. And I've told them, none of them are really relevant to me in my life, other than the fact that, several of these people partook in the shenanigans that Thomas was pulling when they pushed my wife over the edge into a mental breakdown. Thomas tries to claim that, my wife was, I guess, unhappy and looking for another man, whatever the case is. I have photos from, a month earlier, and you can tell just by looking at the photos, which I'll share at some point, that, my wife was very happy, content with life, so on and so forth. But, Thomas's narrative is, she was either looking for another man, she was unhappy at home, whatever the case is, and he claims he didn't do anything, The problem is, I guess he fails to realize I have every message that he ever sent to my wife. I have all the emails between him and my wife. I have all the threatening, harassing emails that he has sent to me. I have the messages and emails that were sent to not only my wife but myself from his little tribe of mindless minions. I have their failed doxing attempt when they put my business name and phone number out there. I have the messages where they tried to contact my then 16-year-old daughter. So all of that stuff is documented. Yeah, Thomas, you can lie all you want. The documents don't lie. When my wife finally got pushed over the edge by you, I sought help. When I took her to a facility, a medical facility, you then talked to the medical facility and you posed as a doctor. You can deny it all you want, but it's in writing. The medical facility referred to you as Dr. Thomas Schoenberger from California, and they said in their documentation you were a neurologist. The only person that could have gave them any kind of crazy information like that was you yourself. Let's admit it. When I confronted you about it, you've made some strange comments to me, such as, well, did you forget my father was a doctor? Things of that nature. So, you attempted to basically, apparently ruin my wife's life. And you almost succeeded. But love is stronger than evil. And I was able to pull my wife back out of this rabbit hole that you sent her tumbling down into. So, I have nothing personally to gain from any of this. I could care less about Cicada 3301. I don't care about Tangri 137. I don't really care about Thomas Schoenberger and Sophia Music, or your music, to be honest. And I really don't care about any of the other folks that, you're associated with. The only reason that I even spoke to any of you people is to try to get help for my wife. That was the only thing that was important to me. Otherwise, I'd have never spoke to any of you. But you kicked the wrong doghouse, because when you messed with my family and my wife, and then you came at me like such a fool, you did nothing but make it personal. And I will stop at nothing to make sure that you are not able to harm anyone else on any social media platform, no matter what it takes. If we end up in court, we end up in court. I have all my ducks in a row, for a lack of better words. And I'm not monetized. See, I don't beg people for money online, and I don't depend on anything online to make money. Hell, I didn't even have a Twitter account. I didn't have a YouTube account for this kind of stuff until you kicked my wife down this rabbit hole. And the only reason I even got on those social media platforms was to research the people involved, which you were the main player, and to gather evidence against you for what you did. So I have nothing to gain, other than the fact that I can put my words out there, and I can tell people what has happened. I can show them the documentation in hopes that you will never, ever be able to harm another soul on social media or in real life. We've actually had people who have committed suicide recently that were people off these social media platforms. To be totally honest, I didn't personally know any of them. I hadn't really spoken to any of those people, but by doing just a little bit of research, you can see that all of those people at some point in time had ties to you and even some of your mindless minions out there. Many of them were attacked. It amazes me. Last week, your friend Scott Bibler had a video that surfaced on, I think, Twitter, and I happened to run across the video. It was a video of Scott Bibler pulling up in a driveway in his van. He exited the van, and there was obviously a camera already running. And as he approaches the camera, he starts talking about how he just got his passport or something of that nature, and he booked a flight on an airplane to Mexico. Not sure if, that's, was pointed towards Lestat. We know Lestat's down in Mexico, but don't know if that was supposed to be a veiled threat to Lestat or whatever. But anyway, said he was going to fly to Mexico. He booked a flight. And when he walked up to the camera and was talking to the camera, he happened to have a beer in his hand, and he was drinking a beer. And so I made a simple comment about, drinking and driving. And next thing I know, your friend Scott Bibler is making threats to me, sending me messages saying, if you want my attention, I've left you alone, but you've got my attention if that's what you want, blah, blah, blah. Well, Scott Bibler, you're not relevant to me either, buddy. I could really care less. Honestly, I don't care that you drink and drive, but I made a simple comment, and then you're going to come back and try to play some hard guy and threaten me, Your buddy Thomas has threatened me, He claimed he was some kind of a Golden Gloves boxer, and he was 6 foot something and 200 pounds, whatever the case is. And basically, I told him when he made his little veiled threat that he was a tough guy, that, I'm too stupid to be scared of any of you. So, your little threats, your harassment from you, Thomas, and any of your little trolls or mindless minions or sock accounts or whatever you want to call all these people, you might as well not waste your time and make threats, because really they fall on deaf ears for the most part, other than just making some comments back to you to have a little bit of fun and get on your nerves, I guess. But I just want to put a warning out to anybody who is approached by Mr. Schoenberger, either, on a business venture, on a business level, personal level, whatever. Just beware, man. This guy has been tied to a lot of evil and a lot of stalking. He's been in court for stalking, for harassment, you name it. And he always denies it. He always tries to flip the script and claim that you are the one doing this to him. But trust me, when you've got dozens of people that are all saying, hey, this person was stalking me, this person was harassing me, I find it really hard to believe that dozens of people that are telling the same stories would all be lying, and that Mr. Schoenberger is the victim here. That's really tough to believe. I, for one, can tell you, Mr. Schoenberger was no victim in my circumstances. Mr. Schoenberger is definitely the suspect. Well, I'm going to let you go tonight. I didn't want to really talk too long, but if I can figure out a way to do a video and maybe put some of the documents up in the video like some of these other fancy guys do on YouTube and Twitter, I'll do so. Otherwise, I'll just screen capture some of the stuff, and we'll start sharing it. You guys have a great night. I sure will.